My name is Emmanuel Unaji. I'm a multidisciplinary visual artist and co-founder of award-winning art design company Unaji Co. I'd say my earliest artistic memory in art has to be around 2005 when we were lucky enough to have a family visit to the Vatican in Rome, Italy. I just remember being with myself, my brother, and it's just that collision, like we're in our headphones being dragged around, I guess, by our parents, but we're listening to that 50 Cent, Snoop Dogg, while we're just surrounded by like modern masters like Michalangelo, Raphael, Leonardo, name it. And I just think that was the attitude we kind of just maintained whenever we now approach art as years came later. And I think that through school, was always keen in art, every class, and I think at A level it was natural to kind of, I guess, want to continue to pursue it. And I think it was really just organic snowball. I'd say my first memory of art has to be like a family holiday to Rome, Italy, where we were fortunate enough to visit the Vatican and see the 16th chapel on the ceiling. Amazing work by Michalangelo. But I guess the beautiful kind of juxtaposition was like, I guess we were being dragged around by our parents, and my brother and I like had our headphones in, listening to like 50 Cent, Snoop Dogg, like respectfully. And I think that juxtaposition was my introduction to art. And I think just that freedom in looking at modern art just naturally carried over to the Renaissance, naturally carried over to contemporary art. And I think there's just that attitude and fluidity that we just maintained as we've just grown up. The turning point of my career so far as a visual artist would have to be the realization of the theory within my dissertation while studying fine art at university, which was essentially a 3-point trifecta. So it started with the traditional fine art practice, canvas, surface, and translating that into a wearable art collection, and that then moving into immersive experience, which connects all three. And then the first was the Harvey Hotel residency, making artwork, and moving into like Box Park, and then an immersive experience in Lille, France. I'd say my greatest artistic influences is kind of split into 3. Movement, I'm massively inspired by Oswald Boateng. Philosophy, Virgil Abloh, and theory would be Yinka Shonibari. And I guess, especially coming up from the young British artist movement, I really have always been inspired and enjoy like Yinka's tone, how he plays with the material of like, I guess, colonial history, global kind of cultural exchange. And I think that these are influences that, for me, that I've really kind of harvested and gleaned from that inform my practice. I'd say that my artistic style is really birthed and inspired by the YBA movement, the young British artists, and I think that like it really starts conceptually, and I think words and like concepts are like the foundation, and I think what emerges from that is like the subtraction of from imagery. And I think for me, I really like to combine a multitude of like mediums together to essentially build up the picture. And for me, that really imitates people, like us in society, like how multiple perspectives essentially make up one truth. I guess I like to kind of now combine different mediums. And I think the kind of rip input process has become signature to my practice in a way that is unveiling and aspects of ourselves or people to really kind of just look deeper within the surface of what we present. The inspiration behind this body of work essentially is exploring Johari's window. And I think the window is an amazing metaphor for, I guess, the way that we all perceive someone else's reality. And I think that I really wanted to like zoom in on the aspects of fella in time and divide that and really dissect that culturally and how that's inspired me and like my movement through time and space, especially from the perspective of diaspora. So it's kind of looking at things from the outside. In the investigation as an artist is to uncover and I guess see what things in my path are things that I reflect me and I really connect with and only tell me more about myself. And I think that's really what this body of work's about. I think Fela is a massive inspiration, but also the other kind of figures are individuals who I've seen in fashion and music who use their mediums to really embody a message to inspire, like obviously myself, but others. I think some of the main themes that I've really been trying to showcase in my work over the years is essentially perception versus reality. And it's this idea that we all have one shared reality and we can all gain a deeper understanding, learning from different perspectives. And I think that's really what the split face represents and symbolizes. And I think that specifically with this body of work, it's about Africa. It's about looking at Africa through the window of diaspora and trying to gain a deeper understanding of that experience and how that's informed my life. For me personally, I'm really inspired by Africa's influence on European modern perspectives on art initially, and if anything, that's where my practice kind of emerges from. And I think that kind of inverted history lesson is an amazing thing. So I think the more art we see from Africa, from the continent, it just carries on the conversation. And I think that's the real beauty. I see it from Matisse, Picasso. There's so many forms, so many shapes that we see in modern European art that takes inspiration. So I think that, long may that kind of cultural exchange continue. I think from the beginning of time, like, man's environment is a reflection of him, is ourselves. And I think that Africans, our art naturally interprets our history, and it's a lineage. I think it's a continuation, and art and artists, that we have a responsibility. And I think abstract and figurative artists in the same space is only a reflection of, again, what we've seen. I think sculpture kind of figures, it tells such a story, and I think it's a great honour to kind of be shown alongside such amazing artists. African art to me is the metaphysical. It's the science of portraying the unseen. Like, that is inherently an African practice, and that's why the sculptural forms are so exaggerated, like lines, colours. That Africans create from a place of communicating what we can't see, like beyond. So we all take inspiration from that. I think, of course, abstract art has to be inherently inspired and in the lineage of African art, and therefore we see that in the inspiration that modern European masters, Picasso, Matisse, took from these forms, these sculptures. And it's famously reported that Pablo Picasso's studio was full to the brim of these masks, and I think that that's amazing to me. I think that cultural kind of exchange and that kind of science, indifferent in many ways. I think I definitely take pride in the connotations of like the geography and like the spiritual technology and approach to creativity. I think that we're in a new day and age where I think we really have an opportunity to, I guess, utilize the technology that we all have at our fingertips to contribute to the conversation and to the style and tradition in which art was made previously. Success to me as a visual artist is expansion, is progressive discourse through interactive practice, and I think that it would be amazing to see my perspective join that conversation of history, and I think that I think that's what it looks like. It's freedom. Like, art is free, art is nature. It's a space where we can generate discourse. And I think bringing it right back to the beginning, like, I think perception and reality, like, I think art is an open space where we're able to put forth our perceptions on the world and have other people comment and vice versa, and I guess gain a deeper understanding on a range of experiences. With all the works I'm exhibiting with Affinity Gallery, my favourite would have to be Haring, Jones, Kuti and Basquiat. I guess firstly, I'm pushing myself. It's more of like it's a multi-figure kind of piece. But I just love the idea of like Nigeria being the center. That's New York City. In 1986, a photograph taken by Andy Warhol, and I just think that Nigeria is just Africa. Like, it's there in the center of this picture. Mr. Charles, in like the culturally, like these are modern masters. You've got Basquiat to the right. You've got Keith Haring in the back, and it's taken by Andy Warhol. And I just think like Fela was and is like the embodiment of Africa as a movement through creative expression, music, fashion. And I think for me that piece really just captures it in such a cool, calm, collective way. What I'd love for viewers to have is definitely question everything. I think your perceived reality is always going to differ from your neighbour, and I think take time and like in that exchange in kind of gaining understanding, whether it's culturally, socially. I think specifically this body of work, I think it would have to be culturally. So it's an opportunity to learn about yourself. I think that through art, through looking at imagery and history, that I've learned so much about others, but in the same breath like myself. And it's really inspired me to dig deeper into my heritage. I think being true to your own visual language, no matter how abstract, creating your own alphabet and creating your own form of communication and allowing people to step into that and really being steadfast in people coming into your space as a creative, I think it's fundamental because, I think just like a country, just like borders, like as artists, we have our own language. And I think each body of work, each collection is slowly allowing people to interpret and understand and become part of it. And then that's where the conversation really fosters from. So biggest lesson I'd definitely say.